This is Jillian and Brenna, and welcome to the short history of the father of microbiology, Louis Pasteur.
Pasteur grew up in Dole, France as a middle child of 5. He was a more artistic person, drawing portraits of his friends and family. One day his father told him that he needed to pursue something that could feed him, so he began his path in science. He prepared for a famous teachers' college in Paris, and he earned his master's degree and his doctorate from the University of Strasbourg.
Pasteur was born in 1822 and made his first major contribution to microbiology in 1848. He discovered that all living things produce left-handed molecules. Then in 1859, he disproved spontaneous contamination. In 1863, he invented pasteurization, and in 1865, he saved the silkworm industry. 1879 marked his discovery about vaccinations, beginning with chicken cholera, and in 1881 he created a vaccine for anthrax. 4 years later, he also made a vaccine for rabies. In 1888, the Pasteur Institute was created, and he worked on more vaccines until his death in 1895.
Pasteur's first discovery was chirality. While investigating optical activity, or the ability of certain crystals to rotate plane polarized light clockwise or counterclockwise, he realized that it related to the shape. There was a special arrangement to the molecules of compound responsible for twisting the light. Through studying tartaric acid specifically, Louis Pasteur found that right-handed and left-handed molecules were the same but mirrored, so molecules produced by living things were always the left-handed versions. All of this led to a better understanding of DNA and microbiology.
Before Pasteur, people believed in spontaneous contamination, that life could begin from nothing. Pasteur proposed and proved that microbes in the air are responsible for the contamination of food. He went on to claim that diseases could be airborne like microbes. He got to work experimenting on how to kill this bacteria when Napoleon III asked him to solve a major issue in France. French wine was sought after all over Europe, but it spoiled too quickly. Pasteur found that by boiling the wine, it killed the bacteria, but it also made the wine taste awful. Later, he discovered that by heating the wine to 55 degrees, he could kill the bacteria without making the wine taste bad. He treated other spoilable substances like milk, which became safe to drink without fear of contracting TB.
Though he had never worked with a silkworm in his life, he was tasked by the silk industry in France to find out how the silkworms could be rid of their disease. At the time, many people believed that disease had no definite cause. Pasteur dedicated 6 whole years to study the worms and found the disease's cause was a parasite. The affected were isolated and destroyed. This breakthrough helped the industry survive as well as France's economy.
Pasteur's work with vaccines began with anthrax and quickly shifted to chicken cholera. Pasteur had an assistant, and both were going on vacation. Pasteur instructed his assistant to inject the chickens with a cholera culture before he left. The assistant did not inject the chickens until he got back. The chickens got sick and they were predicted to die, but they did not. They had instead become resistant to the cholera. This was attributed to the weakened state of the cholera that was injected into them. Pasteur then learned that the weakened forms of a disease could be administered to make the organism resistant to the disease. He applied this to anthrax and rabies, which he developed vaccines for. Rabies was more difficult, however, because it was viral rather than bacterial. He discovered that when the disease was put into a rabbit, it mutated, so it was less effective on its original host and more effective on its new host. Therefore, if the strain from humans was moved to rabbits, it would be less effective than the strain already in humans. He then used the rabbit strain to vaccinate humans.
Although a household name due to pasteurization, Louis Pasteur's discoveries often go unnoticed. His findings are still widely relevant today and continue to be built upon for other scientific studies. For example, we get vaccines every winter when we need the flu shot. Pasteur's studies with diseases also aided in the understanding of the emergences of such diseases as AIDS, BSE, and SARS. He also has a school named after him, the Pasteur Institute. It was opened in 1887 to continue research on infectious diseases. They were responsible for a breakthrough with diphtheria, a childhood killer in 1888, which led to the immunization of about 85% of the world's population today. The Institute is still a private, non-profit organization that's mission is to help prevent and treat diseases.
Created using Powtoon.